Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Marissa Kozlov. It's great to have you with us for today's eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and MarTech. Today's conversation focuses on how marketers can use AI-driven personalization to enhance the customer experience, drive revenue, and improve ROI in 2025. I have three great panelists joining me today, so let's all get to know them before we start. First, we are joined by Amazon Web Services' Justin Hahnemann, who's calling in today from Atlanta. Justin leads the worldwide retail and consumer goods industry strategy and business development at AWS, focusing on supply chain, e-commerce, data and analytics, and digital engagement solutions. Welcome back, Justin. So great to see you.
I know, so good to see you again. Great to be back. And if you're joining us today, I promise you'll be glad you spent the time with us because while the topics say personalization AI, as we dive into it, you're really going to learn about how best-in-class content is managed and what you can do with customer data to really power personalization AI. And so really looking forward to today.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great conversation. But before we get to that, let's introduce our next two guests. Next, we have Megan DeGrutola, Principal Product Marketing Manager at Twilio Segment, who is in San Francisco today. With a focus on AI functionality and over a decade of experience, Megan excels in crafting brand stories and strategic marketing plans that drive awareness, audience engagement, customer loyalty, and B2B growth. Megan, it is so nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So excited to be here today.
Likewise. And last but not least, we have Nicole France, Chief Evangelist at Contentful, who is in Arizona. Nicole is a passionate customer advocate and drives innovation in digital content and business strategies by combining industry analysis with hands-on experience. Nicole, great to have you with us.
Great. Thanks so much, Marissa. And I can't think of a better crew to be here with today as
I
well.
agree. We all met up yesterday before this, and I am very much looking forward to this hour today. So for our audience, as you heard, our panelists are joining us from all over the country. We'd love to hear where you are today. So just use the chat window on the right side of your screen to share that with us. And also, please submit your questions. We'll do our best to get to as many of those as we can during the live Q&A in the second part of the show. We have a great discussion planned for you. Let's get started. Megan, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thanks, Marissa. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I have to imagine if you signed up to be here today, it's because you already understand how important personalization is to, creating really deep, powerful connections with your customers. But you're probably also here today because actually delivering on the promise of personalization, and especially to do it at scale, is really hard to do. And I'm here to tell you that you're not alone in that struggle. At Twilio Segment, we talk to customers every day across many different industries and different regions of the world. And personalization at scale is one of the hardest problems that they're all trying to solve. And that problem is made even harder by rapidly changing customer expectations. And so wanted to kind of paint the picture of what that looks like in the real world here. So Twilio runs an annual state of customer engagement report, and we found that 46% of brands feel like they're doing an excellent job at personalization. But when we asked consumers the same question, only 15% agreed with that statement. So that's a really big disconnect, right? But I would say it's also a really big area of opportunity for companies that are willing to get their hands dirty and really start advancing those personalization efforts. And I think AI can play a really key role in helping you unlock more relevant and intelligent experiences for your customers. And that's really what's at the heart of what we're talking about today. So if this stat resonates with you, you've come to the right place. But before we moved on, I just wanted to see, Nicole, Justin, if you guys wanted to weigh in on this stat and the implications of it.
This doesn't shock me at all, I'm sorry to say. And I think it's one of those very clear illustrations of the difference between what we think we're trying to do when we're trying to make our marketing and commerce and customer engagement strategies more effective and what it's actually like on the receiving end. Too often we're thinking about what we want to accomplish and not what actually makes sense and what's really motivating and compelling and frankly useful for our customers on the receiving end. I think this is an area, as you alluded to, Megan, that we actually have a whole lot that's going to help us improve in terms of closing that gap. But I would say the key thing here is actually recognizing that gap and having the kind of beginner mindset to say, maybe we need to think a little bit more about what actually matters to the folks we're trying to engage through these strategies and not just what we want to accomplish through a personalization effort.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that and say if you've been around the technology space for any period of time, you know that personalization is not new. It's been around since like back 10 plus 20, 15 years ago at least. And also AI is not new. It's been around since the 50s. So what's changed though for personalization is the ability to use data in new and more flexible ways, and then also the ability to curate campaigns in a much faster way that before was very manual, kind of monolithic and heavy and inflexible and expensive. Now you can do so much more through different channels because of just the tech advancements in this space. So it's super exciting to see not only the need for it, but also know that you can very quickly take advantage of personalization capability in your own businesses without a huge lift. So I think we're going to dive more into that today, but just know that even though it's not a new topic, it's one that you can take advantage of now probably much easier than you ever could in the past.
Yeah, those are some great stats that you just kicked it off with, Megan. So thank you. I think that was a great way to set the stage for the maybe a disconnect between what companies are seeing for their personalization progress and what consumers see as well. And Justin, as you said, personalization is not new, but use cases have really evolved tremendously for businesses over the years. Nicole, I'd love your take on this. What are some of the most notable changes that we've seen so far, and what do you see coming in the future?
It's a great question. And as Justin said, there are things we've been trying to do with personalization for a really long time here. I mean, I'd argue what we've been trying to do for the last really 2 decades is get better and better in our digital channels at doing what we do instinctively very well in the face-to-face world. Think about it. You walk into a shop, and any associate that greets you is starting by making a bunch of assumptions about who you are, why you're there, what you're interested in. But they're also doing some really critical things like testing those assumptions, sometimes very directly, sometimes indirectly, in ways that help you get to a better outcome. And to do that quickly and easily and naturally and in a way that's helpful and not invasive and creepy, right? So we have been working on trying to do this through digital channels with, some hits for sure, but a whole lot of misses along the way. And part of the challenge has been we've, in some cases, had very clunky abilities to do this. So, simple things like putting the name of the customer into an interaction or a communication. And that's great, especially if you get it right. I think all of us probably have experiences where we've gotten that wrong on the receiving end as well. So even some of the fairly basic things aren't always consistently good. But what's more important is kind of having that holistic understanding of a customer that we very instinctively have as people and trying to do that equally well in the digital space. So I think one of the big advances is we have much better tools and techniques now for building a comprehensive view of who our customers are, building that composite profile, using a combination of deterministic and probabilistic approaches to have a really clear sense of who this customer is at an individual level, whether we already know them or whether we don't, but we can make some really accurate assumptions about them. So that's one part. The other is I think we're getting a lot better at understanding how to do things that are meaningful personalizations for our customers. And, some companies are really, really good at doing this. Others are catching up. But part of this is trying to actually get some of the core fundamentals right and not getting overly fancy. I mean, one of the big challenges in personalization is the more variables that you introduce that you're trying to personalize around, the greater the opportunity for things to go wrong. So as much as we have a tool set that is helping us get a lot better at this, I would still say that one of the strategies that's increasingly effective is sticking to the core aspects that actually drive meaningful engagement. So customer segments, that's a big part of it. Being able to not only understand the individuals, but group them into meaningful customer segments that have really similar priorities and behaviors. The other part of this is our ability to actually tailor our content and our messages in a way that's going to resonate with the audiences that we know something more about. So that's another big tool that has been moving along and evolving for some time and is getting a lot better now when we have generative AI techniques that help us not necessarily to automatically create a personalized experience, but importantly to help us iterate in the thinking, find a lot of opportunities to test and experiment, and rapidly move to the things that actually do resonate with our customers. Yeah, they help along the way when it comes to generating content too, whether that's, massaging images or creating variants of copy or even doing things like localization and translation that might be a lot harder to do if we're only using manual techniques. So we've actually come a really long way in a short period of time. And I think all of us would say that there's still plenty on the horizon that is going to change in the next couple of years, probably pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's so many things that you can start small with, like content personalized to cohorts. I think Nicole hit it exactly right. Starting with those things and building up. And now that we have, like you were alluding to, the generative AI, predictive AI, which has been around for a while, but is becoming like a lot more accessible for marketers to use on their own without needing to involve, data science teams to help them. I think, when I'm thinking about the future of personalization and where it can go with all of those pieces together, it's really a world where a company knows exactly who you are, why you're interacting with them, can predict what the problem is you're trying to solve or what item it is that you're looking to have, and then can really easily and seamlessly give you that solution or that product on your preferred channel or in your preferred style at exactly the right time that you need it, right? Like that's kind of the ultimate frictionless, super impactful, personalized experience. And then again, when we're talking about like leveraging predictive or generative AI throughout that process, on the one hand, you're creating, potentially a better experience for your customer, but you can also use these tools to offer up assistance to your employees who are the ones that are building these experiences, and interacting directly with your customers. So you're making the experience hyper personalized for your customer, but also making the lives of your employees much easier and more productive. I think that's kind of the ultimate goal with personalization and AI working together.
Yeah, the last thing I'll just share is, every day we work with, the largest and the smallest retailers in the world, and the largest and smallest of the consumer goods brands, some of which have direct-to-consumer platforms, as you can imagine, and the food service distributors, by the way. But what's interesting is I am continually surprised at especially the retailers who are not already using some form or fashion of personalization. And I just don't get it. Like it's the easiest thing, quite frankly, to test and learn, try out. If it works, great. If not, tweak it to drive incremental revenue and sales and create a better experience for the end customer. The example I'd use, I was with the food company last year, and they have a website, and they said, yeah, our personalization is we put up there like where we have the items where we have too much inventory. So if we got too many hams, that's what's on the website. That's our personalization. We're trying to move inventory and not creating a customized, personalized experience for their end consumer, just trying to move product. So I challenge you, and some of you are probably out there listening going, yeah, we're kind of behind on that. Like this, we're going to talk about what you can do to get started in a few minutes, but I'll just say one thing is just start. You can do that today. It doesn't require a big software download, and I mean, it's easier than ever. So I just challenge you to think about that before we get to the end of our time today.
Well, that's a great example, Justin. I think one that we don't often think of. I think we think of personalization as really tailored and specific to us, but that was a retailer using it in a different way. Sometimes, at least for me, I even think if it's not even the best experience, at least they tried, they can iterate from there. So that certainly speaks to the evolution of personalization. Megan, you talked about how AI is going to help make personalization a lot more effective. Oftentimes to get to that, great point, brands and may experience some pain points along the road. So I'd love your take on that. In your experience, what are some of the challenges that marketers are facing in implementing effective personalization strategies, and how can they overcome some of these challenges?
Yeah, I mean, there are numerous challenges. Otherwise, we wouldn't still all be talking about it. We would just be doing it. But I believe, that first, and I think one of the most prohibitive problems, is that data is typically siloed across various teams and tools within an organization. So if you think about, kind of the non-linear, customer journey that most people have, if a customer is viewing an ad on Facebook and then maybe clicking that, going to your website, making a purchase, maybe later signing up for some type of loyalty program or having some kind of customer support conversation, all of those actions are likely being captured in individual systems. So there are multiple versions of that same customer in each system, and then these systems aren't typically talking properly to each other. And when data is fragmented in this way, it makes it nearly impossible to get that kind of single view of your customer and what they want and need as their needs change from moment to moment. So you really have to have that deep customer understanding to not only deliver personalized experiences, but also to power your AI. Because if you have disjointed data, you're likely going to have some type of disjointed customer experience, which can tend to cause some frustration on the customer's end. And then you're also likely to have inaccurate AI outputs or insights if you're putting disjointed or inconsistent data into your AI systems. Then you have privacy concerns, like you want to strike a balance between personalization and data privacy compliance. That can be pretty tricky. As Nicole said earlier, like you don't want to, you want to personalize, but you don't want to be creepy. I think it's important to, prioritize transparency and choice when it comes to your data collection methods. Um, then, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but many businesses lack the technical expertise needed to build and operate these AI ML models. Like many or most personalization efforts are run by marketing teams, and marketing professionals tend to lack data science or data analytics skills. And I think businesses need to invest in training and partner with technology solutions and providers, and adopt tools that are user-friendly to non-technical roles. Um, and then, there's scalability issues, scaling personalized experiences, especially content, is a really big challenge. It can overwhelm your business's resources. So here's another opportunity where, leveraging automation and AI is a great way to help kind of streamline and automate some of those labor-intensive processes. And then, how are you going to measure the business impact of this? So proving ROI can be pretty difficult. Again, if your data is siloed across different tools or different teams, it can be hard to get that clear view of your ROI impact. So needing to really establish clear KPIs and probably adopt some type of customer data platform, known as CDPs, or some type of robust analytics tool to help you track all of your efforts across all your different channels and touch points.
I just want to chime in and say, these are very definitely challenges that I think all of us see and feel, especially those of us in marketing. There are a few that also strike me here too. I mean, one of the things that Megan pointed out is the need to provide tools for marketing organizations that don't necessarily rely on a data science team to help put them into place. And I think it's one reason why we as technology vendors are working so hard to balance a couple of things. One is incorporating those capabilities in ways that actually help to serve the outcomes that we know our customers want in order to operate their strategies. Part of that is things like using the appropriate tool for a specific type of outcome. If it's translation, if it's analytics, if it's audience segmentation, these are specific areas where some models might be better than others. At the same time, we're also trying to balance the ability to bring in some of those tools so that organizations can make use of the content that they already have. I mean, one of the big challenges here, and again, Megan talked about addressing those different modes of customer engagement that we have. Marketing might be in the driver's seat, but a lot of that content and a lot of those types of interactions that we have with customers aren't necessarily within the purview of marketing, yet they're connected. So part of this is how can we make sure that we're leveraging the content that we have across the entirety of an organization to both inform what we're doing and what the outputs are of some of these tools, as well as the objectives we have for engaging with customers. We also want to feed back into those too. So it's creating that consistency that is not just about data silos, it's really operational and content silos in a lot of cases as well.
Yeah, so we've been talking about all these challenges that come with implementing, a personalization strategy. We've already discussed a bit that many companies are now looking to AI as, a faster, easier way to cost effectively deliver these experiences at scale. Segment's State of Personalization report actually shows that businesses are betting really big on AI. So 88% of companies are budgeting or planning to adopt AI ML tools within the next year. To me, I think, this commitment to adopting AI really signals a collective understanding that being able to effectively personalize your customer experiences will be key to not only, keeping pace with customer expectations, but also will be what gives companies a competitive edge in the future. Justin, Nicole, wasn't sure if you wanted to jump in here.
I'll take this one and transition right into the next slide. Actually, we definitely have seen this. In fact, I mentioned earlier that AI is not new. It's been around since the 50s, and many of you on the business side are a little scared. Like AI, ML, I think that's IT's job. But then this whole thing, generative AI, came out last year. Like for months, we were having calls all day, every day. I was ringing this bell right here. Like anytime someone would say the word Gen AI, it was like I'd ring it, and it was like all day, like crazy.
It's because you can't take that many shots in one conversation, right, Justin? Hence the bell.
Look, generative AI, the topic, and you all know this that are watching, like it sucked the air out of the room for everybody. Like everything was like, what is this thing? How do we use it? And so end of the year, I'll fast forward a bit, and early this year, we've now seen some of the use cases coming to life, right? And hopefully all of you realize this is not an IT thing. It's a IT and business opportunity to advance. And you see on the screen here some of the use cases. Now, what's interesting is, without getting into the definitions of AI, is we're calling it all AI now, and within that is machine learning and generative AI and large language models. So again, we're not here to talk tech with you guys and scare you, but just know that it's kind of all there. And we're seeing it come to life in two different ways. Number one is I have data. You in marketing have data. I have models I can run against that data, and I get an outcome or a result. You're in shopper marketing, you're in consumer or shopper insights in a CPG brand. You've got massive spreadsheets of data. I know you do, because I work with you every day. Okay, you can apply a model to that and get insights and ask questions of the data in a way you've never have before. And if you're not doing that today, you should go talk to IT and get access to those models. They are there, whether they're from Amazon or other, okay? That's kind of a type of use case. The other is where you have, a Contentful, a partner here in the CMS space, where they're building it in. Okay, so the tech tools that you're using, here we are, we're actually recording as we're talking to you on Zoom. It's built in to Zoom now, right? It's just, you don't have to worry about selecting a model in the data. Like it's there, like the assistant, everything is built into it. So you're going to see the capability built into more of your tech tools and platforms, which is good for you, the marketer that doesn't have a lot of resources, right, to pull together the campaigns and execute those. Also, for the data you have in different systems where it's sometimes challenging to get that together, you can go ahead and apply these models to it, and you don't have to be an IT person to do it. So what you see on the page here are some interesting use cases around AI as it is today. And I mean, each one of these we could spend minutes on. I'll just say the big areas where we're seeing this come to life across our customers are overall customer experience. So that includes everything from personalization to some of you like using this for your e-commerce listings, titles, bullets, AdWords, selecting segments. Quite frankly, these models can do that very quickly and easily. Of course, things like virtual assistants. In the creative space, it's a big part of this, right? We talked about content, like creating images, powerful and good today. Like if I could show you some of the examples of what customers are doing, you would not know that those generated by AI models. Video is right behind, by the way. Branded video is, I mean, we've already seen examples with the customers we're working with. So we're about a year or maybe a couple months out from really strong video content. And that's just a couple of the areas that are already big. Search is booming right now around this. And not to get too off our topic here of personalized campaigns and whatnot, but just know if you're in marketing in retail or you're in marketing at a brand organization, these use cases are coming to life. And so I just encourage you to step in. Okay, step in on this. So I'll throw it over to the others if they want to add or highlight any specific use cases on the page.
I like, Justin, that what you're talking about here is really kind of connecting some of these things too. So when we talk about personalization and especially incorporating AI to help us, we can start with things like what are the audience segments? We can make sure that we're serving up ads and campaigns that are targeted to those segments. We can connect that to how that customer journey evolves as they click through and come to our digital properties and what happens across different steps of those interactions in that customer life cycle. There's a really cool opportunity here to take multiple steps that we might have treated in kind of separate approaches and connect them up in ways that honestly feel a lot more fluid for customers and generate better results for us as businesses as well. And I think the key spirit here is experimentation. And there are so many different ways in which we can experiment. That's something we talk a lot about in marketing. It doesn't always get the kind of support that we want, but we can iterate so rapidly here in so many different ways that we have a really good opportunity to try some new stuff out and to see what works. And if it doesn't work, we abandon it. And if it does start to work, we can really rapidly roll that out into other areas and drive the kinds of big impacts that Megan talked about earlier too.
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, I think the chatbot virtual agent experience is like so primed for AI to come in and help improve this. Like how many times have you put in, had a chat conversation and it's just like your name and then like three predetermined options. And if you say anything other than those three options, it's like, let me connect you to a live agent.
It's like every IVR experience we've ever had. Yes.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot that Gen AI and just contextual data can do to help improve that information and for the live agents, and then also take things that are said in that conversation and automatically extract it and add it to your customer's profile so that you can then personalize those communications even further going forward. But lots of areas of opportunity there.
I like that. It's almost like everybody then will have their own file on themselves, right?
Yeah.
Utilizing
It
some
gets
of
better when we have agents working for us, but we're not quite there yet.
Well, those were really great. Thank you all for sharing those practical use cases that you've seen. It was good to hear all of those different examples. But we also know that, even with all of this information and data, AI is only as good as the data it analyzes. Megan, what should businesses consider when using data for personalization?
Yeah, I mean, the saying is garbage in, garbage out, right? So any data you put into a AI model you're going to get outputs that are, reconciled with that. So you really need to put in complete, consistent, trusted data into these AI models. And first-party data is really critical to that. So that's any of the content or the data that you collect about your customers on your direct owned sites. So websites, mobile sites, like searches that are done on your website, purchases, email, signups, that type of thing. And this type of data is really important because it's more accurate than third-party data. It's collected with consent from your customers, so eases those data privacy concerns. And then it's a competitive advantage for your business because it's not shared with other companies, right? Like this is the information that they've directly had with you. So as we mentioned before, though, this data is usually in many different places, and that's where CDPs like Segment come into play. So Segment CDP really helps to break down those data silos, including silos with your data warehouse, where, data warehouses sometimes have like loyalty status, customer satisfaction rating, all of that. And it will give you that single view of your customer across the complete customer journey. And then once you have these unified profiles, then you have the context, the full picture that's needed to not only power your AI experiences, but do all of this type of dynamic and hyper personalization, targeted audience segments that we've been talking about.
It's interesting because I think part of what we're seeing too is across the available tools that you can pull together to do this. And it really is a question of pulling together multiple pieces to make this work really effectively. There are a lot of different strategies in how you can do that. And that's why a thoughtful implementation of this, a clear understanding of what you're trying to do and accomplish in the first place, and a way of incorporating the appropriate tools and capabilities is so critical here. We can talk about things like even different strategies for how you arrive at audience segments that you might want to use in parallel. So, for example, the way Segment approaches defining audience segments is more focused on trying to find audiences that meet certain characteristics. We've got some capabilities within Contentful that actually take a different approach that say, help me identify audience segments based on the behavior patterns and analysis and other data that we have. These things are often very complementary, and they help us get to the kinds of things that we really need to understand as insights in terms of which audiences we want to engage with, how we want to engage with them, and ultimately driving toward those kinds of mutually beneficial outcomes that help customers because they're getting what they want in a way that is more effective and often more fun and engaging and less painful. And they certainly are the kinds of things that drive business results for us. So these are the kinds of questions, I think, and characteristics and decisions that are really critical in helping us as marketers to get better at what we're ultimately trying to do, and to do that in ways that are faster, certainly more efficient, and that deliver much more significant business results.
Yep, I'll wrap up the slide by just saying, for those of you that you might hear the word composable commerce in your offices, and for those of you in IT, you probably know what composable commerce means, and you have a strategy for moving to a more composable architecture. Not to talk tech, but you get that. If you're in marketing, you may not know what composable means, but what it means very simply is moving your e-commerce platform to a space that's more flexible, scalable, also allows you to like swap in and out capabilities. So as you think about content management, think about your customer data, you think about like a contact center solution, think of them as little pieces and parts that can actually, you can choose best of breed or different types of solutions to fit into that. And you don't have to update the whole platform when you decide to change part of it. And so many companies in retail and in CPG that have e-commerce platforms are moving to a composable commerce strategy. And so what you have here, just to get to the bottom line, is you've got two strong partners in this space that you might want to consider as you're thinking about those elements of your solution.
All right. Well, thank you all. And it looks like per the slide, it is time for the Q&A. So thank you all for that great discussion, Nicole, Justin, and Megan. Just so the three of you know, we have had such great engagement from our audience. Not only have there been a ton of questions, we have people who are tuning in today from all over the country and all over the world. We have Copenhagen, we have Madrid. So again, so great to see everybody in our audience, and thank the three of you specifically for such a wonderful conversation. Let's get right to the Q&A. Nicole, I'm going to pass this first one to you. What are the best AI tools or platforms available for personalization in our industry?
There are a lot of them. And I think the key point here is you want to be able to find the right tools to support the key things you want to accomplish. Integration is really key. And there's a reason why you've got me, Justin, and Megan here talking about this. Part of it is our three organizations provide a number of these key tools, and they work really effectively together. They integrate easily. They help you get to the kinds of operational outcomes that you want. And they also are flexible. So you can make changes. You can swap parts in and out. You can use different parts of the tool set, if you will, in different ways, depending on what your priorities are. And I think there's also a combination of, as we talked about earlier, each of our organizations really trying to incorporate some of these capabilities in ways that already do what it is you want to accomplish. But we are matching that with the ability to try things out, to change different models where you want to incorporate your organization's content or data or insights to help tune and train and to really develop the kinds of AI capabilities that are specific to your organization. So I think when it comes down to how to do this really well, it's a question of identifying best in class, ensuring that you've got tools that can integrate really easily together, and honestly, a source of guidance that you can trust as well in terms of how to implement this stuff effectively, what some of the options are, and how to get quickly to the things that are most meaningful and highest priority on your list when it comes to personalization.
All right. Thanks, Nicole, for those suggestions. We have another viewer who wants to know, are we at a place right now where AI can do some of the heavy marketing lifting for things like multivariate testing strategies, personalization recommendations and automations, personal adjustments? What do you all think about this? Megan, I'd love your take first.
I would say yes. To put it simply, I think, yeah, I mean, AI is already, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but there are AI tools out there now that can help you do multivariant testing, A/B testing on your site and your emails, on your ads, and search and paid. I think there are generative AI out there now that can help you, like we were talking about earlier, create content, recommend headlines, recommend images, create videos. I actually was on a call the other day where someone had AI write a birthday song for a person on the call, and it was actually a really good song. So AI is out there already now. I mean, I think what Justin was saying earlier is so salient. Is just like, you have to start testing it. I think, the only thing that's holding you back is you. I think testing, failure, iteration is good. And as long as you have, a goal and objective in mind, I think that's the key, right? Is like working backwards from a customer milestone or like a magic moment or a specific metric that you want to impact in your company. And then working backwards from that to pull in different data, different tools that you need to move the needle essentially on those things.
Interesting. Now, did the AI just write the lyrics for the birthday song or did it also sing it?
Composed it, sang it, created a little sing-along video with it. It was amazing.
Put a plus in the chat if you want to hear this birthday song. I don't know if we'll be able to hear it today, but that sounds awesome. Anybody else want to give their take on, are we there yet?
I'll add, I mean, the technology is moving faster than most individuals can keep up with. It's moving faster than companies can keep up with how individuals are using it, and certainly running ahead faster than any sort of regulation or government, I'd say, oversight around it. So it makes it a very interesting technology. Specifically, generative AI is what I'm referring to when I was sharing all of that. It is built in. I mean, a lot of the things that were mentioned in the question are available today through models that can do that, and actually being built into some of the platforms that marketers use to drive campaigns and engagement. And so I expect that if not there now, like literally weeks away, like that's how fast this is moving. It's also forcing some of the tech platforms that you use, some of those companies, to change how they operate. Like they're having to move faster to get new releases out, new capability out, because if not, you could change in a heartbeat because of the cloud. You don't like this platform? No big deal. Go use this one. Like you didn't used to be able to do that. but only years ago. So I think that's forcing change in how technology companies approach customers. It's forcing change in how you use the technology, and it's forcing change in some of the agencies that support you and some of the consultants that support the agencies. So it's a very interesting dynamic playing out in the market.
Interesting.
I want to echo that. I think Justin's right. A lot of this stuff is here now. That doesn't mean it is going to work exactly the way we want it to yet, although it is getting there so quickly. It's kind of mind-boggling. But the other thing that's really at issue here is that because these things are changing so quickly, we need to be able to keep experimenting. We have to be trying out new stuff. Big model changes will sometimes radically change what the outputs are. And that's an issue for us as vendors incorporating this stuff, as Justin mentioned. It's an issue for marketing and other teams that are working with these capabilities. I would say that we aren't necessarily at a point where we're happy to just let this stuff go on its own. And I don't think we'll get there for quite some time to come for a whole host of reasons. But oh my goodness, the ability to dramatically accelerate how we work and to open up new avenues for things that we wouldn't have been able to do before because it just wasn't feasible if we were doing stuff manually is really very big.
Well, with so many choices, that brings up the topic of relevance and being able to stay relevant. Justin, how can AI help us scale personalization efforts while maintaining relevance and quality? We had a viewer ask about that.
I think we hit a lot of the extra elements of it. I would just say the one thing we haven't talked about is a topic called responsible AI. So most of the organizations, well, if you work with any size organization, you have some sort of responsible AI framework that's most likely been put in place by your technology group. And so that I also would just encourage you to engage with them and understand what's available through the partners that you have today. And as was mentioned earlier, if you're not already testing this, you're falling behind. And this is not an IT thing. It's just not. I mean, it sounds like technology should be down the hall at IT, but those days are kind of over. And so if your mindset is that I'm not technical, you're missing out. These tools are easier than ever to use. You can't really break anything. If anything else, you're going to learn from it and pick up some skill sets that are super valuable. So that's my encouragement.
All right. Well, thank you for that. So we're going to take one more question today. I would love each one of you to weigh in on this one. As we approach 2025, what advice would you offer to help the audience prepare for their 2025 digital journey? Nicole, you first.
I'll say the first thing is keep the fundamentals in mind. I think there's a real temptation to get overly fancy and overly sophisticated. If we focus on the fundamentals of what we're trying to do and get really, really good at making those highly effective, I think it's going to serve us really well. And I'll just use a really brief example here. If you look at a company like Ruggable, one of the things they've figured out is the most meaningful segment, or certainly a key segment in the way that they engage their audiences, it's the difference between cat lovers and dog lovers. That might not be the first audience segment that jumps to mind when you think about doing good personalization, but yeah, there are people that like both, but there are some people that are hard over in one camp or the other. And so for Ruggable to make sure that they're presenting the right images to whatever pet owner they're engaging with, this is actually something that is driving very significant conversion rates and upsell for themselves. So, keeping an eye on the basics is actually going to serve us all really well, especially as we try to get more and more sophisticated in how we use these tools to experiment and iterate and work really quickly.
All right, Megan, your advice?
I would say I agree with what Nicole said. I think stick to the fundamentals, and I think you can start small. I would say if you really want to scale your personalization efforts or set yourself up for success, I think you do need to, get your data in order and create kind of a strong, solid data foundation. And if you can do that, I think that will really help unlock so much more personalization opportunities for audience segmentation. Again, not anything crazy, just like the fundamentals. And then, yeah, like I said before, I think start small, pick one goal that you want to, one metric that you want to impact, and start small and just get started, test it out, fail, learn, move forward.
Justin, we'll close it out with your advice.
Yep. I've given a couple of pieces of advice as we've gone through today, but maybe one more from me is lean into your partners. So all of you have agency partners. Most of you are using some sort of tech platform, some sort of CDP, some sort of consulting firm or other. Lean into them. They're all trying to stay like one day ahead of you, literally one day ahead of you on the AI front. So like, and they're challenged to do that so they don't lose your business. So lean into your partners a little bit, learn from them, ask, test out, know what's coming. That's what I would do on the partner side.
All right. Well, thank you all for those recommendations and advice. And of course, for such great content today. It was so much fun to talk with you all about personalization and AI. So thank you all, Nicole, Justin, and Megan, for being here today. And thanks for answering those great questions from our audience. And to our audience, thank you so much for engaging with us today. So before we wrap up, let me just take a moment to tell you about what's happening across our media channels here at eMarketer. You can register for live analyst and tech talk webinars on our events page at emarketer.com/events. Don't forget to tune into Behind the Numbers, our daily podcast. And finally, please subscribe to our newsletters. Thank you all for joining us. And thanks again to Nicole, Justin, Megan, the teams at Contentful, AWS, and Segment, and our eMarketer studio team behind the scenes for making this webinar possible. We'll see you all on the next Tech Talk.